All right. Shalom, family. It's your brother Kanaiba coming at you once again with this video titled, We Must Understand the Times We're Living in, M.O.T.B. Okay. So there's been a picture floating around on the internet about the World Economic Forum, and supposedly they made a post about how they want the CBDCs to actually be implanted under people's skin in order to participate in society. Okay, so I've been seeing this particular post a lot, within the last day or two. So it compelled me to try and, look into it myself. And I stumbled across a video on YouTube, with a guy actually speaking on it. And I say, you know what, I may use this video in my video, but what really solidified it, and let me say this, he who is spiritual judgeth all things. You have to look for spiritual signs in these last days. Okay, that is very important, because I clicked on his video, and as we see here, look at the bottom left-hand corner. At the time when I clicked on the video, look at that. It says 144 views. Okay. So that really solidified it for me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to use this particular video and I'm going to make a video about it as well. Right. So that's what we're going to do. We're actually going to watch this particular video about the matter. Right. And then we're going to actually go into a post from End Time Headlines as well. And we're going to go over that, get into the scriptures a bit, and bring my video to a close. All right. So without further ado, let's actually get into this video. Okay. Because if this is true, then man, our salvation is right around the corner. And we already know that. But this puts a new light on things. Things are really starting to get more real. Okay. But anyway, now let's stop the talking and let's actually get into this video. All right.
World Economic Forum says central bank digital currencies must be implanted under your skin if you want to participate in society. Yes, you heard that correctly. Greetings, everyone. This is John Contreras, Greek American news journalist, and you are watching the news with Greek News on Demand. Our website address is GreekNewsOnDemand.com. Please visit it today. And for all of our English readers, please visit our English article section here.
Now, before we move forward, allow me to say this real quick. A lot of times, it's actually better to look at these, for lack of a better term, non-American social media platforms. Okay? Because a lot of times those particular platforms are a lot more truthful than American platforms, so to speak. Okay? And especially if you're fortunate enough to actually find one of these platforms that actually has their articles in English, like this particular one, a lot of times it's better to look at that. Okay? Because right now you don't really even see American platforms even talking about this particular matter. Okay, it's like they're trying to keep it hush hush right now, right? But anyway, I just thought I would throw that out there. Okay, let's get back to it.
And before we get to our article of the day, please follow me on social media, John Contreras. Please like our professional page, Greek News on Demand, John Contreras, on Facebook. Please follow our profile here on Twitter, Greek News on Demand. Please follow me personally on Instagram, John Contreras. And also, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Greek News on Demand, where we publish videos both in Greek as well as in English. So, according to the revealing news website, thepeoplesvoice.tv. The World Economic Forum basically has the intention to roll out the mark of the beast.
And you know what's sad about that? A lot of times, these other nations are more privy to what the M.O.T.B is than actual Israelites that proclaim to be in the faith. There's a problem with that, okay? Anybody with two eyes should be able to see what the M.O.T.B really is, okay? But you have certain individuals that want to say it's everything else under the sun besides what it really is. They'll tell you it's sin and everything else, but that's not it, okay? It's this particular chip that soon they're going to want to force on everyone, okay?
And to force everyone to basically be implanted with a small chip under the skin if they want to have access to both food, their bank accounts, etc., etc.
Revelation 13, verse 16 on down to a T. Okay, which of course we're going to get into later on in the video. Okay, but that's the prophecy to a T, right?
The World Economic Forum has declared that all citizens must be implanted with a CBDC microchip in the very near future in order to be able to fully participate in society and do basic things such as purchase food and water. That is according to Professor Richard Werner. In the very near future, citizens will, quote, need to use the latest technology, end quote, such as a, quote, CBDC chip implant, end quote, in order to access their bank accounts.
Now, pay very close attention to what he's about to say about this particular professor. Okay, Professor, what is it, Richard A. Werner? Okay, because this particular professor, he's about to start spilling the beans. Okay, so let's listen to what he's about to say next.
Okay, so this guy has a pretty big resume. Check it out here. He is the creator of the quantitative easing monetary policy, which he proposed to Japan back in 1995. Okay, so this is, of course, according to major top news websites like expose-news.com, which reports at the Amsterdam Science Summit in 2022, Professor Werner gave a lecture on a central bank digital currency and on the 2030 agenda of the World Economic Forum. At the sidelines of this year's Amsterdam Science Summit, he spoke to Ivor Cummins about CBDCs and how high inflation has been orchestrated by central banks to further their agenda.
So, did you hear that? According to Mr. Werner, the powers that be, for lack of a better term, have pretty much orchestrated high inflation. Okay, it's not something that just happened. This high inflation that you see today, it was orchestrated by them to further their agenda. I wonder what that agenda is. We already know what it is. Okay, but let's continue. Let's see what he says.
Imagine that. Okay, they orchestrated high inflation in order to carry out their agenda, and that's the reason why you and I are both seeing high inflation everywhere, both at the grocery store, at the gas pump, etc., etc. Professor Werner proposed quantitative easing 2, which allows the central bank to force the banks to create more money and push it into the economy.
Right. So as we read earlier, Mr. Werner, he proposed this monetary system to Japan back in or a monetary system to Japan back in 1995. Okay, so now he's proposing another one to the central banks, right? And basically what this does is it forces the banks to create more money out of thin air to put into the economy. And in turn, what does that do? It creates inflation, right? So now let's get back to it.
This would be accomplished with central banks buying assets, for example, property from non-bank sectors, okay? Quantitative easing 1 was followed by Japan in the 1980s, but the USA disallowed Japan subsequently using quantitative easing 2. And then, out of the blue and at the wrong time, quantitative easing 2 was adopted by the US Federal Reserve and other central banks in March of 2020, right around the start of the fake pandemic, in other words. There you go. Here's the real reason why they pulled the so-called COVID pandemic on us.
Hold up now. Did he really just say what I think he just said? Could it be that one of the reasons that the C19 was pushed on us was to create inflation? Could that really be it? It makes perfect sense when you look at the dates. The C19 really pretty much took flight around the time that Kobe died, right? It was January of 2020, right? So the timeline matches up perfectly. Okay, let's get back to it.
The intention of adopting quantitative easing 2 at the time was to cause high inflation. Why? To move economies into a CBDC system.
And as Denzel Washington's character said in Training Day, it's chess, not checkers. Okay? Again, all this was done to purposely create high inflation because they want to move to a CBDC system, and which in reality is moving towards that greater prophecy that we read about in the book of Revelation, the M.O.T.B. Right? Let's continue.
And of course, the fake war in Ukraine expedited all this, okay? They're behind this war in Ukraine too, okay? The World Economic Forum, all right? Yes, people are dying. Yes, there's real battles going on, but the World Economic Forum orchestrated all of it, okay? And they control both sides, by the way, both Putin and Zelensky. So, as we go down here a little bit further, we read, in March of 2022, the Federal Reserve and other key central banks adopted quantitative easing 2, a recommendation for deflation or a shrinking economy. In March of 2020, notice the day here, March of 2020, economies weren't shrinking, but the Federal Reserve adopted quantitative easing 2 and bought up assets from non-banks, forcing banks to create credit. It was very clear it was going to create inflation. It was going to create inflation. This was not an error in judgment. It was intentional. Professor Werner explained. It's a very specific policy that is very rarely taken.
See that? I told you this dude was about to spill the beans, okay? The Federal Reserve purposely bought up assets from non-banks specifically to create inflation. And like he said, it was not an error in judgment. It was intentional. Okay, because they want to roll out this particular system where you have to put this chip under your skin, this CBDC chip. Okay, which is ultimately a fulfillment of Revelation chapter 13. Okay?
Except, of course, if they want to basically tyrannize all of us and force all of us into a new type of banking system where you're forced to put a chip under your skin. Proof that this was a deliberate action, Professor Werner said, was that, quote, just before COVID in August of 2019, there was a conference in Jackson Hole of the annual Central Bankers Conference, but it invited BlackRock, the big asset manager, and BlackRock made a proposal. They said there will be another crisis, but this time we should create inflation.
Now pay very close attention to what was just said. At this particular conference back in August of 2019, This organization known as BlackRock was invited to the conference, and BlackRock made a proposal that they said that there would be another crisis, indicating what this particular crisis was created on purpose. Okay. And through this particular crisis, that they should create inflation. Okay. And this was back in August of 2019. They said a particular crisis was going to come. Okay. And not too long after that, the beginning of 2020, you have the C-19 that took flight. Okay. Chess, not checkers. And all of this is leading up to their ultimate goal of what? Wanting to put this particular chip inside of everyone. Okay?
Imagine that. They never, though, explained why. They just said, we must create inflation, and here's how we're going to do it. And they cited, says Professor Werner, my proposal, without mentioning my name, of course. And there's one more factor, Professor Werner said. The Federal Reserve hired BlackRock in March of 2020 to buy assets. Quantitative easing was for a deflationary situation, but the way they were using it had to cause inflation. There was no doubt. And they knew it because they even said it. Okay? And they knew it because they even said it. All right? So go on to read the rest of this article. This is very damning. Of course, they want to force everyone to put a chip under their skin. And this last part says it all. At the moment, there's talk about CBDCs being used via phone-based apps. Yes, that is the initial phase. But what was already around in 2015 is the ultimate goal. What they really want, apparently, I was told by a central banker, is a central bank digital currency, okay, that looks like a small grain of rice that they want to put under your skin, which, in my view, is a violation of human dignity, etc., etc.
Hook, line, sinker. Okay, what more needs to be said? Okay, Mr. Professor Warner, he just said that they want to create a CBDC that's the size of a grain of rice to put under your skin. And even he said that it's a violation of human dignity. Okay, but the whole point is this has to happen because it's a part of prophecy, like we've been saying all along. Okay, this M.O.T.B. is not anything else except this particular chip, whether you like it or not, whether you want to accept it or not. Okay.
Okay, there you go, folks. And of course, they want to put everyone on a basic income of like 2,000 euros a month. And of course, if you're a bad boy or girl, they'll take away units away from your account and they'll make you starve. All right? This is absolute freaking tyranny. And of course, you can see the related video here. I'm not going to play it because of copyright violations, etc. Please read the full article on our site, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. Thank you for listening.
All right. So now that we have that information, let's go into the second part of this video. Okay, which is an article from End Time Headlines. Okay, and it reads, it says, Phoenix area Whole Foods store introduce pay with palm technology. Do you see that? Okay, so they're trying to prep us and get us, comfortable with pretty much using our palm to pay with everything, to pay for everything. Okay, and that sounds awful familiar. Okay, sounds a lot like the prophecy about this particular chip being placed in your right hand in the book of Revelation. Okay, which we'll get into later. Okay, but let's get into the article. Okay. All right, so going to the article, it begins by saying this. It says, imagine not needing cash, a card, or your phone to pay. Only your hand. It is called palm recognition technology, and that method of payment is already here at every Whole Foods in the Valley. Okay? Like I already said, they're trying to get you comfortable with this way of payment. Simply using your palm, and they're calling it palm recognition, to pay for everything. But here soon, they're actually going to want to put a chip in that palm. Okay, first they want to get you used to it without the chip. Okay, just simply using your palm. Okay, but very soon after, there's going to have to be a chip in there. Okay, and the way they'll probably spin it is, you're already using your palm to pay for everything anyway. Why not just add a chip to it? Right? But anyway, let's continue. It says, as far as handprint scanning and other biometrics like eye scanning, it's definitely the way of the future, tech expert Burton Kelso said. Reading on, it says, the palm recognition system is called Amazon One. I believe I did a video about that in the past. Okay. It says, with biometrics, one of the things that's great is that your information is tied to you, Kelso said. Only one set of eyes that matches your identity. Okay, so you already see that they're trying to sell us on this. Okay, devils. That's all I got to say. But they're trying to sell us on this. Okay, to try to entice us to actually want to, get comfortable with it. Okay. But anyway, let's continue here. So scrolling up a bit more, it continues by saying, same thing with your fingerprints, same thing with palm recognition and facial recognition. So that's a good thing. See all these selling points, right? So it says customers we spoke with were split. It just makes the transition out of the grocery store a lot faster, Daniel Welsh said. It's a little bit scary. I love technology, so I decided to check it out. Okay, so you see the selling points. It makes the transition at the store a lot faster and things like that. They're going to try to sell this as if it's going to make your normal everyday life routines a lot easier. Okay, because people in general are lazy. Okay, let's just put that out there. Okay, but anyway, let's continue. It says, I don't feel comfortable. It's just grocery shopping. Cesar Martinez said, why would you scan your finger or eyes or anything to buy groceries? Well, thank you. Okay, at least one person has sense. Okay, what is the need to do that when you could just simply pay the old-fashioned way? That there's little to no effort to do that. Okay, but anyway, let's continue. So scrolling up a bit more, and the article continues. It says, it freaks me out, Andrea Chavez said. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to do it, maybe sometimes for convenience, but it freaks me out. Okay, so again, she wants to do it for convenience, but it still freaks her out. And notice the people that's kind of skeptical of it. They seem to be Israelites. Okay, looking at their last names, they seem to be Northern Kingdom brothers and sisters. Okay, because it should be in your spirit to just know that there's something wrong with that. Okay, but I just thought I should point that out. But anyway, continuing on, the article reads, it says, part of the fear that people may see is that someone may cut off a limb like you see in the movies in order to pay for stuff. Kelso said, well, it ain't that deep. Okay. The scary part is the fact that this is in prophecy and we're seeing it being rolled out right in front of our eyes. Okay. And the Bible clearly told us not to get this particular mark. Okay. That's what's scary about it. Okay. But anyway, continuing on, it says, but that isn't going to happen. For the most part, your biometric data is safe and is going to make the future of transactions a lot easier to deal with. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. They really trying hard to sell us on this. Okay. It says, Kelso says it is easier to hack your accounts online that have passwords. So while paying for items will become a breeze in the future, it could become more difficult to teach our children about the value of money. It says with automatic payment systems, it really is hard to teach children how to value their money, Kelso said. You already see that with credit cards and debit cards. Panera, some airports and stadiums across the country now have palm reading technology. Okay. So basically this last part, again, they're pretty much trying to demonize credit cards and debit cards and saying it's hard to value money in that way. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. So they're putting down that system to build up the new system pretty much. Okay. Which is this palm reading technology that they speak of, which again, ultimately is going to lead to what we see in prophecy in the book of Revelation. Okay. But, that was the end of that particular article. Okay. So now, with that being said, let's actually hit the scriptures for a bit, and then we'll bring this to a close. Okay. So opening up with the scriptures. This is Romans chapter 13 and verse 11. And it reads, it says, and that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep. Okay. And that's why I titled this video the way that I did. Okay. Because it's important to know the times that we're living in. You have to pay attention to prophecy. Okay. Because one of the major prophecies, end time prophecies, is what? That M.O.T.B. And once you see that being pushed and we're getting closer and closer to that coming to fruition. Okay, when you see, you should know it's high time to awake out of sleep. Now is not the time to be asleep like the rest of the world. It's time to wake up and return to the Most High. Why? Let's finish the verse out. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. When you see these prophecies unfolding back to back to back, these end time prophecies, you should know that our salvation is right around the corner. Okay. And what we just read and the video that we just watched, that's a big one. That's a very big one. It's really the biggest prophecy that has to be fulfilled, or one of the biggest prophecies that has to be fulfilled before Yahushua returns. Okay, let's move forward. This is going to be the book of Matthew, chapter 16 and verse 2. Okay, now this is Yahushua talking to the scribes and Pharisees, okay? And it reads, it says, he answered and said unto them, when it is evening, ye say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. Okay, so what we're going into is basically how, and you can relate this even to today, how people, weathermen, meteorologists, and things, and people like that. They can look at the signs in the sky and things like that, and they're able to predict what the weather is going to be in the future or the next day or in the near future or whatever. They're able to look at the signs in the sky, so what have you, and they're able to predict the weather. Okay, so he's making a point right now. Okay, let's move forward. So this is going to be verse 3, and it reads, it says, and in the morning it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. It says, O ye hypocrites, ye can discern the face of the sky, but can ye not discern the signs of the times? Okay, so basically he's making a comparison. Okay, the same way that, certain people can, or really anybody, really, you can look at the sky and tell what kind of weather it's going to be. In like manner, you should be able to look at what's going on around you and tell what times you're in. You should be able to tell that you're in the end times and salvation is right around the corner, simply based on the things that you're seeing around you. Okay? And one of the major things that we're seeing is what? More talk about this implantable chip. That's major. You should be able to look at things like that along with other prophecies to tell that the end is near. Okay, let's continue. So this is verse 4, and it reads, it says, a wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. Now, let's pause here, okay? And this right here, it really kind of further solidifies the notion of reincarnation or regeneration, okay? Right then, he called them back then a wicked and adulterous generation. Okay. So I'm here to say that same generation is back. You can't tell me that right now that this is not a wicked and adulterous generation that we're living in. Why? Because it's the same people brought back. Okay. That's really plain and simple. Okay. But let's start from the top again. It says, a wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. Because the scribes and Pharisees, they were seeking a sign when you start at the top of this chapter, right? Now watch what he says. Watch what Yahushua says. Okay. It says, and there shall no sign be given unto it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and departed. Okay, that was really a drop the mic moment. Okay, but again, you got to understand what was going on with Jonah the prophet. Okay, and again, we can apply this to our people today, right? Jonah pretty much tried to run away from the will of the Most High, and he ran right into hell. In a nutshell. Okay, so likewise, all of you people, all you Israelites that want to run from the will of the Most High, you want to do your own thing, you think this isn't for you, you make every excuse under the sun to not do the will of the Most High, like Jonah, you're going to run right into hell, which meaning destruction, not this imaginary Greek mythological place that burns under the ground. That's not real. Okay. This is talking about you're going to run right into destruction. Okay. And again, that destruction, 9 times out of 10, is going to come in the form of Jacob's trouble. Okay. In these end times, or ultimately it could be one of the missiles. Who knows? Okay. But why would you want to play Russian roulette like that? Okay, just focus on doing the will of the Most High and you'll be just fine. Okay, so moving forward, we're going to bring it to a close with this prophecy. Okay, this is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. And it reads, it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Okay, so it doesn't matter where your status is in society. Okay, this is going to be presented to you. Okay, you're going to have to acquiesce to this in order to live in society or function in society. Okay, this particular mark, be it in your right hand or in your foreheads. Okay, let's continue. This is verse 17, and it reads, it says, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the name or the number of his name. Okay, so this actually lines up perfectly with the video that we watched. Okay, he already said, I believe it was in the beginning of that video, they want to push this CBDC chip on everybody, and in order to function in society, you'll have to have that particular chip. Okay, does that not sound exactly like what we just read here? Okay, but people can put on blinders all they want, but those who are meant to see it, they see it. Okay, and we see it being played out right before our very eyes. Okay, so again, we have to be vigilant and circumspect and knowing the times that we're in. Okay, because our salvation is nearer than when we believed. Okay, but anyway, I believe this is a good place to end the video. And again, the title of my video is We Must Understand the Times We're Living in, M.O.T.B. Okay, so we went over this particular video that you see in front of you. Okay, and that particular professor in that article in the video, like I said, he spilled the beans. Okay, this thing is real and it's right around the corner. Okay, they're pushing it more and more and more, this implantable chip. Okay, it's not just something we're reading about in the Bible. It's a reality now. Okay, and you have to prepare your spirit because you're going to have to make a choice whether you like it or not. Whose side are you going to be on? Are you going to be on the Lord's side? Or are you going to be on the left-hand side with the people that's going to be destroyed for actually taking this mark because they have a lack of faith? They want to be able to function in society comfortably. They don't have faith in the Most High. Okay, so they're going to bow out disgracefully. Okay, so you have to make that choice. Okay, because this thing is real. And seeing this prophecy, okay, this should let you know, like we read in Romans chapter 13, it's high time to awake out of sleep because our salvation is nearer than when we believed. We're almost there. We just got to hold on a little bit longer and get through these last few prophecies that's left. Okay? So with that, and as always, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh, which is the name of the Heavenly Father. And I do so by Hashem, which means in the name of Yahweh Shai, which is the name of the only begotten Son of the Heavenly Father, whom the world knows as Jesus Christ. And I want to thank all you brothers and sisters for tuning in. I hope this video was informative and edifying. And until next time, Shalom, family.